What is up, sports fans? Back here again to do another episode of Opinionated. This is our second episode. It's been a little bit of a layoff for us in between our first and now second episode. We do apologize for that, but nonetheless, we're back here again. I am Evan here with my co-host Brian.
What's going on, sports fans? Glad to be back.
We're going to focus mainly on the NFL draft. Obviously, we're a week away from that, and the Broncos seem to be a team that are kind of in the middle of everything. Picking at number 5, John Elway made some recent comments about us potentially trading back. So we're going to touch on that and a plethora of draft prospects, draft scenarios, all centered around the Denver Broncos. But to kick off this episode, again, it's been a couple weeks since our last episode, so we want to touch on some of the personnel moves that the Broncos made. They actually traded, I believe, for safety linebacker Sua Cravens, which was a rumored deal for quite some time, and finally came through. So he is now a member of the Denver Broncos. We then signed punter Marquette King, formerly of the Oakland Raiders, which unlike Sua Cravens, actually was kind of a surprise move.
Yeah, it was.
And to see him stay in division, obviously, I think kind of revenge on his mind. But Marquette King, obviously a very colorful character.
Absolutely.
But an upgrade at the punter position. And then the big news that came out, I believe a couple days ago, this week actually, the Broncos deciding to part ways with Pro Bowl running back C.J. Anderson, actually with him coming off his first 1,000-yard season, only 27 years old as well. But this was a move. Again, a lot of rumors centered around C.J. this offseason, us maybe trading him. And we weren't able to reach a deal with any team, so the Broncos decided to do this, save $4.5 million in cap space. Overall, Brian, what's just your reaction to the Broncos signing Cravens and Marquette King, bringing them on board, and then, of course, kind of the bombshell this week, which is obviously going to affect not only the media future of the Broncos, but the draft next week as well, in us cutting Pro Bowl running back C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, busy few weeks for sure for the Broncos. I definitely like the pursuit in Sua Cravens. I think he adds another dynamic, another weapon to our secondary. Maybe getting it back to not necessarily the no-fly zone, but kind of close to that par per se. He's an interesting addition because he has had injury issues, and he's even contemplated retirement at some point, from what I understand. And he's even young. How old is he?
I think he's 22, going on 23. He'll be
23 years old almost. I mean, he's a young kid to contemplate retirement at 23 years old. But I think we're also kind of giving him a second chance, another opportunity to pursue his NFL dream in being an NFL defensive player, defensive back. So we'll see what he can do. I hope he can stay healthy for sure. The deal's obviously nice. We traded 6th-round pick, I think.
Yeah, I think it was we exchanged late-round picks and him pretty much.
And I actually heard a little through the grapevine that Elway there was two defensive backs on Elway's radar last year when they drafted Justin Simmons, or 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago when they drafted Justin Simmons, and when Sua Cravens was drafted as well, and both of those two prospects were Sua Cravens and Justin Simmons. So now Elway's got both of them now. So like I said before, he's kind of working with a different kind of weapon here from a defensive standpoint. As far as Marquette King, I love the signing of Marquette King. He's very colorful, like you said, very colorful character. He's emotional, which I love. Football's an emotional game. You need to play with emotion. And if Marquette King can come in and pin a team at the 5 and dab on them, and then they get upset, and
it's going to ignite the crowd and the team.
Absolutely. And I think it brings attitude to our locker room and to our gameplay for sure. And that's one aspect I really appreciate from Marquette King. And then moving on to C.J. Anderson, the bombshell out of left field.
Yep.
He's been productive. He has. He's been a good running back for the Broncos. Obviously, a big part of that Super Bowl 50 run. Very productive there. And I would say kind of carried the team when it mattered most, when Peyton was down and when Brock came in and had to step up for Peyton. And I think CJ really, he's the ultimate team player.
Absolutely.
I hate to see him go, but I do agree with the move. I do think it's the best move for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think in terms of CJ Anderson, I've been as critical of him as any Bronco and any Prey fan throughout his 5 seasons here in his tenure with us. So part of me is, I'll be honest, this is kind of like good riddance in a way, and I don't mean to be harsh, but that's kind of how I feel with C.J. Anderson, and I think it's a perfect time given this running back class.
Sure.
You have Saquon Barkley, Darius Guice, Ronald Jones, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb. We can go on and on. I mean, this running back class is very special. Rashad Penny out of San Diego State as well. So I think the timing makes sense. As you mentioned, you save nearly $5 million in cap space, which is big for us right now.
Right.
And given where we're picking, if Saquon Barkley does fall, this kind of makes sense in replacing him. And again, he's coming off his first 1,000-yard season. You signed him to that 4-year, $18 million extension, made him a top 5, I think top 10 paid running back. And then he got hurt. And, I think he's productive. I think that's a great word to describe him, but he's never elite.
Right, right. He's not exciting.
Exactly. So, but I do respect what he did. And, again, he made some big plays for us throughout the past couple seasons. And, again, last year played every game. So, and the market's going to be big for him. Only 27 years old. He'll get back on his feet.
He'll definitely find a job.
Yeah,
I just hope it's not with New England.
Yeah, that would suck for us.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, big move, but I think the right move. And then Sua Cravens, as you mentioned, young, talented, a guy that seemingly had some concussion issues in his time in Washington, and by all means, with the recent studies with CTE and brain trauma with NFL players, and we understand why Sua Cravens was scared in terms of retiring. But if he's healthy, it's great to have him. This guy's a Swiss Army knife, as Brian said. He can play safety, but he's a guy I think that also can come in at times in passing situations and in packages where he could be a cover linebacker for us, maybe even a additional rusher out of that.
And like we talked about in the last episode, which is exactly what we needed.
Absolutely.
In signing Todd Davis.
Yep, he complements him well.
We needed another cover linebacker per se, or cover safety, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
I mean, Swiss Army knife's a great way to put him.
Yeah, and a guy that adds depth in case Justin Simmons gets hurt, Darren Stewart gets hurt, Brandon Marshall gets hurt. Sure. Brandon Marshall, especially a guy that has struggled with injuries as of late. You hope he can stay healthy, but if he goes down, Sua Cravens can now step in for him. And then Marquette King, you kind of said everything I have to say about Marquette King. But a little fun fact about adding Marquette King is last year, I believe the Broncos had 2 punts blocked. Marquette King, throughout his whole career, has only had 3 punts blocked. So
that's huge.
That's kind of nice to add there. Special teams was obviously a mess for us last year, and adding this guy who can be an igniter, and who I think will fit right in with our locker room. I mean, Von Miller, I think, is going to love this guy.
Absolutely.
And again, he's going to have fun, and to add that kind of life to our locker room, which last year, with all due respect, looked lifeless and team look angry and frustrated. It'll be nice to have that vibe.
Absolutely. Even the Broncos country themselves. Yeah. Even to the fans at the game, like you said, like he's going to come in here, pin him at the 3, do a silly dance, and the fans are going to love it.
Yep.
It's going to... I love the attitude.
Yep. And he's an upgrade, bottom line. Like, regardless of that, just as a player, Marquette King is a guy, I think, comparing him to Riley Dixon, with all due respect, is a much better punter. Absolutely. And with his leg strength and this thin mile-high air, he could definitely be pinning some teams inside the 5 quite often. So that's our rundown again of the personnel moves of the Broncos: trading for Sua Cravens, signing punter Marquette King, and of course releasing running back C.J. Anderson. But now we're going to get into the real meat of this video and obviously talk about the upcoming 2018 NFL Draft, which we are now a week away. Exciting times for all 32 NFL franchises, but specifically the Broncos, because we are a team that could definitely kind of make or break this draft and change the tide of it. But we're also picking in the top 5, so if we stay at pick 5, obviously it's exciting to add a top 5 pick. We haven't picked this high since adding Von Miller in 2011. But nonetheless, to start this draft preview off, we got to talk about the comments made yesterday by Broncos president, of football operations, John Elway, saying that the Broncos are pretty much open for business at pick number 5. The pick is up for sale, and that they are open to trading out of that pick which I think is great to hear. We kind of talked a little bit about this in our first episode, but Brian, what do you think of those comments by John Elway to kick this off? And if the Broncos do trade back, the obvious choice is going to be with Buffalo, probably, obviously, trying to get those 2 first-round picks. Again, we've talked about this at 12 and 22. What would you think of that, exchanging 5 for those two first-round picks? And how do you feel about John Elway kind of just letting it out there and stating, let's play ball, essentially, with the other 31 NFL teams with that 5th pick?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. John Elway, I feel like he's playing poker, He's got his poker face on, and he's saying, come get some, You want this number 5 pick? Come get some. What do you make me an offer, I feel. And I love that. I love that approach to the draft, especially drafting this high. I do feel like this draft is a huge... I just feel like this draft is so significant for the future of the Denver Broncos. Elway has to hit on these draft picks because, I mean, you missed on Paxton, you missed on Brock. Essentially, I mean, he's not a franchise guy. Shane Ray's even looking a little questionable now.
I mean, Elway's missed a plethora of times.
So I mean, you just have to hit it. You just
Absolutely.
have to hit it. And I think Elway's working hard at reaching that goal, and I respect that and I appreciate that. I love it.
Yeah, and I agree as well. I think that's the philosophy you should have at number 5. And to be honest, we saw a tweet before we started recording this on, I believe it was NFL Live. There's a rumor 5 quarterbacks might go in the top 20. So if you hear that as a team like Buffalo, you hear that as a team like Arizona, and then you hear a team like Denver being willing to trade a top 5 pick, you're going to want to trade up, I think. I think Elway...
It's going to cross your mind, for sure.
I think this was real calculated by Elway, like you said.
Absolutely.
I think he's playing poker. He probably, he knows the climate of the draft. He knows what teams are thinking. He knows what teams are feeling, and I think...
He knows the value of the pick, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I even think if you can make something happen with Buffalo, you might be able to get more than just those 2 first round picks. And I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The market could be set, again, with quarterbacks going heavy, and that could almost play into our hand.
No question.
But the scenario I want to throw at you, Brian, is if we do make this deal, okay? Elway's now been open with it. We've talked about the scenario. And let's just say, to be obvious here, we do make that trade with Buffalo because that seems to be the most attractive package that we could get with 12 and 22.
Sure.
Who would you like to target then? Like, just throw some names out there. You don't got to be specific with position or like, oh, this player... is ranked wherever. It doesn't matter. Like, what 2 players would you think, or 2 positions, so to say, would you like to see us target with those 2 picks if we got that from Buffalo and moved back to 12 and 22?
Well, the reason I think I love that scenario so much is because it's like knocking 2 birds out with 1 stone, with 1 round, okay, in the first round. So you get 2 picks in the first round as opposed to 1. That 5 pick is so valuable. I mean, you can get if Saquon Barkley is there, no question, he's a franchise. He's a game changer, a franchise changer
in every way, on and off.
So if he's there at 5, you have to take him, I feel.
Yep.
But if he's not there, and especially if a guy like Quentin Nelson is not there, which he might be,
and you're not sold on any of these quarterbacks as well.
Right. So I think the only person you can be locked down at 5 is Saquon Barkley. Opposed from that, I mean, you trade back with the Bills. Bills get a quarterback. You can get a guy like Darius Geis, Will Hernandez, Mike McGlinchey out of Notre Dame.
Yep. Very safe pick. Well, let's just start there. Let's say in that scenario you draft Darius Geis, running back out of LSU, and then Will Hernandez, guard out of UTEP. What would you say then? Like, how would you feel about those 2 picks in general, and where does that move the Broncos forward in adding Darius Geis and Will Hernandez if that scenario played out for you?
I think I'd love it. I think that's a great two picks. Excuse me, in the first round. We're talking about off camera or off record or whatever you want to call it. I feel like if you go skill player at 5, you're almost building from the top down. As opposed, if you go a guy like Quentin Nelson at 5, you can build from the ground up. Like I said to Evan, I think the offensive line is like a tree, like the tree's trunk.
Yep.
You know, it's the base. It's the base of your offense. You can't have any productivity out of your quarterback, out of your running back if you can't make the holes, if you can't give them time. So again, those 2 picks, if you go Will Hernandez, Darius Geis, I mean, you get a big chunk of your tree trunk in Will Hernandez or Mike McGlinchey, and you definitely get a very skillful player in Darius Geis or Calvin Ridley or any other guy like that.
Yeah, potentially even, a crazy scenario would be moving back and maybe with that 22nd pick, drafting quarterback Lamar Jackson out of Louisville.
Another game changer.
Yeah, while adding, like you said, a Will Hernandez or a Mike McGlinchey. And even if the Broncos wanted to add an offensive lineman or a running back, obviously, to replace C.J. Anderson, say they go Darius Geis with one of those picks at 12 or 22, again, in the scenario that they trade back with Buffalo, they could even also add a defensive player if they're thinking in that regards. Because again, people still like to have the stigma about our defense, and I'm not trying to take anything away from our defense. It's still a very talented group. I still think we're one of the best in the league. We've proven that statistically and talent-wise across the board. We have great guys: Von Miller, Derek Wolfe, Bradley Roby, Chris Harris. The list goes on and on. Justin Simmons, now Sua Cravens into that mix. Brandon Marshall. But we obviously could still shore up some deficiencies and holes in that defense because our pass rush wasn't the best last year. Our defense at times was uninspired last year, and it'd be nice to have some spark, in a way as well on that side of the football. So there's also potential for guys like Vita Vea, defensive lineman out of Washington, who I absolutely love. Is a great athlete for his size. Is gonna fill space and be a space eater, if you will, as a defensive lineman. Or you go Marcus Davenport, an edge rusher to help Von Miller out and Shane Ray out, and those guys.
The path could be paved for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Through the draft, Will Hernandez might not be there at 22. Okay, so let's go get Lamar. Yep. Or let's go get Davenport. Yeah. It might work out like that.
Because when you trade back, you almost your options are more endless.
Right, and if it doesn't, it's a good problem to have. It's like you're okay. You want the queen or the 10?
Yeah. So,
if you're Elway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost your choice.
So it's like trading back. I think we're both in agreement. May ultimately be the best move, and from what John Elway's comments again yesterday at the pre-draft press conference, it sounds like the Broncos are also thinking that way as well. And honestly, I would love it. Again, we mentioned all the reasons. Kill two birds with one stone. Your options become limitless regardless of how the draft board falls. Mm-hmm. And you can go any philosophy you want. Best player available, position specific.
Yep.
Draft a quarterback, get Lamar Jackson, whatever you feel. That could be great.
Before we move on, what would you like to do if those two... If we move back for those 2 picks?
I think Darius Geis has to be one of those picks, personally, especially now with releasing C.J. Anderson.
Sure.
I'm the biggest Saquon Barkley fanboy, whatever you want to call me, supporter in the world. But Darius Geis I don't think is much worse. I think he's also a very special back. Might be a more physical runner than Saquon as well. Mm-hmm. And he's got this charisma about him off the field, man. I don't know what it is. I saw an interview with him recently on NFL Network, their show. I want to say it's Good Morning Football or Wake Up Football, their early morning show, and he was on it, man. He's got this nice suit and just the way he talked, articulate young man, and I think he'd fit, again, another guy, maybe you want that in your locker room.
Right.
Saquon both of those guys I think are outstanding young men. So he would be one of my picks, but I like what you said. Will Hernandez, shore up that offensive line even more, bringing in Veld here. You got Garrett Bowles, you got Matt Paradis, Ronald Leary, you then add Will Hernandez into the mix. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get Mike McGlinchey. But there's also a part of me, man, that would, I love Lamar Jackson. So to add that explosiveness, he could, sit behind Case Keenum. And you don't really have the same kind of media pressure to throw him in there if you draft Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, whoever at number 5. Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith would be a guy at 12. With our linebacker history, the guys we've passed on in the draft at that position specifically, and how special he is, his sideline to sideline speed, coverage ability. You got Sua Cravens in there. Now you got this linebacker group you got something cooking in the middle of your defense. So he'd also be an option for me. If we're talking defensive players, I think my preference would be Roquan Smith, probably number 1, and just because I like the way he plays. Yeah, 12 probably, because I don't think he's fallen very far. Yeah. But at 22, I'd love to get Vita Vea. I just love that kid. I love the way he plays. And again, to get that guy in the middle of our D, he's going to free up some space on the outside for Vaughn. That could be interesting as well. So this is, again, what we're talking about. The main point about trading back, the options are endless.
Are limitless.
Regardless of how the draft board falls. So, again, that's the first scenario with the Broncos trading back. But there is that other scenario, as I mentioned.
There's a scenario. There's the real scenario that we have right now.
Yeah, the scenario that most likely is going to happen. We got the Broncos, staying at number 5, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Wouldn't be the worst, but you have to hit. That's the only thing.
You have to hit for sure, especially given John Elway's draft history.
And that's another interesting thing, because at 12 and 22, there's almost less pressure, and you have another chance at 22 almost.
That's an amazing point.
Because at 5, it's like, I have all this pressure to make this pick, and in Von Miller, it was almost a no-brainer. It's like, okay, Cam Newton or Von Miller.
Yep.
Okay, Cam Newton's gone, Von Miller.
Yep.
But at 5, there's 4 other players going before your pick, and you, especially in Broncos country, man, you better hit that pick. You're feeling it from us here on Opinionated. I'm sure you're feeling it. You're definitely feeling
everyone
it from
in Denver.
104 through the fan.
Everyone here.
So.
And let's be real, John Elway's draft history, 53 draft picks total, I believe.
Not the best.
Only 2 made the Pro Bowl, one of which, obviously, of course, Von Miller.
Number 2 pick.
So that's not good. But again, that's a great point. The pressure kind of comes off you. But the only thing I'm worried is I don't want it to be a 2 draft pick scenario like we had now almost a decade back with Robert Ayers and Noshawn Moreno. Where you miss on 2. That would be obviously the nightmare scenario. But again, you get more chances there essentially. Whereas 5, it's got to be a Pro Bowler, an immediate starter, and an impact player. And so if we do stay at 5, obviously we already you mentioned this earlier in the episode, Brian, but the top guy, if he's there, it's got to be Saquon Barkley, junior running back, of course, out of Penn State, 6 foot, 233 pounds. Blew up the combine.
Big boy, too.
Big boy. He's compared consistently to Reggie Bush and Christian McCaffrey, and I do understand that given his versatility as a return guy, his receiving, his home run hitting ability. He's 30 pounds heavier than both those gentlemen. And that's all due. I love Reggie Bush, and I love Christian McCaffrey, local kid, obviously from Colorado. But let's be real. This is a different kind of athlete, and I believe he ran a faster 40 than Christian McCaffrey, being 30 pounds heavier, too. Again, different level of athlete is all I'm saying.
Sure.
And again, 40, 30 reps pretty much at 225, 41-inch vertical at 6 foot. People are lucky he's not in the NBA. He might be dunking on everyone.
His athleticism is through the roof.
He's a transcendent freak, once-in-a-lifetime athlete. And then the production to back it up, 3,843 yards, 43 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry. That's just rushing statistics at Penn State, 3 seasons. Was a Heisman contender multiple years. And it's just a freak in general. But, what would you say, Brian? I mean, if we get Saquon Barkley at 5, what is your climate of how he affects our team, and how would you just feel in general, I guess? Because we don't really need to break him down as a prospect. Everyone knows he's great.
Right.
So what would you? How do you think he fits in Denver, I guess, is my question.
He fits right in. I mean, especially with CJ being released, past few days ago.
Yeah.
Obviously come in, and I think the job is yours right off the bat. I don't think there's a question. Devontae Booker or D'Angelo Henderson.
I think they become complementary players.
Absolutely, and they might complement it.
Yep. I think D'Angelo Henderson and Saquon Barkley is a
very well. I would be ecstatic as a Broncos fan to get Saquon Barkley. Let's get to work.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's pretty straightforward with him. And for offense, let's be real, we couldn't do anything. We're lifeless everywhere. No big playability. This kid, he's going to help. I mean, you want a home run hitter? He's going to do it, and he can run in between the tackles. The notion that he's not a physical runner needs to stop. He might not be Leonard Fournette. He's not Marshawn Lynch. He's not LeGarrette Blount. But he is a physical runner. I dare any linebacker next year stand in the box with him one-on-one. And you might get him, but see how that 233 at 4.4 feels. Because that guy can... Saquon can do it all. I think he's a special player. And I literally have nothing that... Like, Brian mimics... I mimic everything Brian said. He'd fit right in and be an upgrade from CJ. The next guy I think we got to talk about, if we stay at 5, it's got to be a viable option, especially with your philosophy of kind of building that base of the offense, building that tree trunk, if you will. Right. And that's Quentin Nelson, guard out of Notre Dame, monster of a man. 6'5", 330 pounds, would be a huge upgrade inside at either guard spot. Probably have Ronald Leary at whatever spot you don't put Quentin Nelson in. And then you add him, Garrett Bowles, Jared Veldheer, nasty, physical, big group.
Nasty.
How would you feel about that, Brian? Obviously, with your the kind of your line of thinking right now and building that base.
I mean, if Saquon Barkley is not there, I think Quentin Nelson is a viable option, because it does. I mean, it does build the base of your offense. You know, if you can protect Case, if you can give Case Keenum time, he can protect the ball and he can find somebody. We have the receivers to do it. You know, we just need the protection.
Absolutely.
And if you can give even Devontae Booker and D'Angelo Henderson room to run and holes to run through,
yep.
You know, you're gonna have success. So I think that's a great pick. It's not the exciting pick, you know. It's not the Baker Mayfield. It's not the Saquon Barkley. It's not the Josh Allen. But it is the pick that makes your football team significantly better, in my opinion.
Especially for a team that needs to hit if they're staying at 5.
Absolutely.
I think you hit with him. And the great thing about Quentin Nelson, as I mentioned, 6'5", 330, amazing hands. I mean, the guy is so strong. His grip is so strong. But the thing I like about him, I think he has the athleticism. Let's say Garrett Bowles goes down. Mm-hmm. Let's say Jared Veldheer goes down. You know, that situation happens. This is a guy with his size. I think he can kick out and fill the void there as well. So you have the versatility of a guy that can play across the line as well. And like you said, man, I mean, you could draft him at 5. Go get Sony Michel in the second round.
Yeah,
go get Ronald
absolutely.
Jones. You still could fill the void. Rashad Penny, you could fill that void.
No question about that.
And give one of those young running backs
or maybe even trade back into the first round.
And get Darius Geis maybe, you know, and see what happens. So Quentin Nelson's got to be.
And I hear a lot of people say, I mean, you've said it, he's the second best player in the draft.
So he's talented.
But I'll go out on a whim and say he's the safest.
Yep.
Pick in the draft.
And it's like for a team that needs to hit again.
Absolutely. How long did Joe Thomas?
Yeah.
How long was his career?
Like 10 plus years.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll take 10 years of
an all-pro
solid,
lineman.
all NFL, Pro Bowl,
Hall of Fame lineman.
Absolutely. I'll take that play all day for 10 years.
That would be yeah.
So thank you.
If Saquon's not there, he's got to be probably your second option.
Right.
And then the next guy we got to talk about, if he's, you know, if we stay at 5, going to the quarterback position. Obviously, the Broncos have kind of been a real tough team to read with what quarterback they like. Are they even going to get a quarterback? They've basically gotten to know them all. They've gone to all their pro days, done everything you would think of a team that's interested in getting a quarterback, but really haven't backed it up with what they've said.
Sure.
But the next guy, Josh Allen, junior quarterback, Wyoming, 6'5", 237, freak. Ran a 4.7 40 at his size and blew up the combine. I made throws that you probably couldn't make with a creative player on Madden. And honestly, like, the arm talent is ridiculous. To me, he's somewhere between like Phillip Rivers and Dante Culpepper. People say, well, he's not as athletic as Culpepper. Maybe not, but I think he's athletic enough to be compared to him. And the size, the arm strength, you know, Elway, you'd think, kind of loves the way this kid plays and the physical ability and all that. You know, if the Browns don't take him, if the Jets don't take him, and he's staring you in the face at 5, Brian, what would you think of the Broncos not only taking Josh Allen at number 5, but bigger question, should they take Josh Allen at number 5 if he falls and Saquon's gone, Quentin Nelson's gone, let's say, and he's staring you in the face?
Oh, my goodness. That one's hard because, I mean, just the other day, there's Elway on TV reaffirming that Case Keenum is the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos. He says that now, but it's like, oh, man, if Josh Allen, especially like if those two are gone, Quentin Nelson and Saquon Barkley, If they're not on the board,
He's an intriguing
and Josh
prospect.
Allen is staring at you in the face.
You can have your cake and eat it too, in the sense that you could bench this kid for 2 years.
You got Case Keenum for 2 years.
Yep.
What are you doing after that?
Yep. Then you got
You know?
exactly, and I think that's Josh.
It might not. He might not see the field for a year or two.
Yep.
But it's like, if Keenum can't get the job done, we can always throw him in.
Absolutely.
And in the worst case scenario,
he learns for 2 years.
we trust the process
Yep.
as Philadelphia did, and we lose 2 more years, and
Yep.
and we get, and who knows, maybe if we
Like
get
the Sixers in the NBA, yeah.
2 more top 10 picks in the next 2 years, who knows what
And then
what
add to
this
that.
team could be with Josh Allen.
I'll put it this way simply. I think Josh Allen as a pick might not thrill you as a Broncos fan in 2018. Might not help the Broncos in 2018, but I think come 2020,
Yeah.
could pay off enormously. I believe in the kid. I believe in all these quarterbacks. Truthfully, I think all of them have supreme talent, but especially Josh Allen. And again, the arm talent's unreal. I think he'd fit great. And like Brian said, the scenario here works with Case Keenum in place. And what are you doing after 2 years? What is the plan? This guy would be a great plan. Again, thinking ahead and trusting that process, like the Philadelphia Sixers of the NBA. You could do that and get those high draft picks, add to the offense, maybe even shore up the defense, help the team once Josh Allen steps in.
And who knows? Maybe you can even trade one of those if the situation is right.
Yep.
You know?
And I don't know if you want to be the team that regrets passing on Josh Allen if he develops into what he could be.
Right.
So there's that. So he's definitely intriguing. The next player, I really like this pick for the Broncos potentially as well. You got defensive end Bradley Chubb out of NC State, senior, 6'4", 270, ran a 4.65 40 at 270 pounds, 36-inch vertical. Last 2 seasons at NC State as a junior and senior, finished with 20 sacks combined, and had 44 tackles for loss, which kind of mimicked the numbers of Von Miller's last 2 seasons at Texas A&M. We actually looked those up before we came on here because we kind of were wondering that. For a Broncos team that everyone loves to talk about our pass rush, but people forget DeMarcus Ware's gone. Derek Wolfe can't stay healthy. Shane Ray also can't stay healthy, and as Brian mentioned, as of right now, who knows what he's going to become. We finished 22nd last year in sacks, only 33 total sacks as a team. Von Miller was at times triple teamed last year. We were so predictable. Bradley Chubb would be a guy that'd be an amazing fit here, productive as all hell. Great size, can also play inside. I think at times if someone like Derek Wolfe goes down, can give you not only a
You can switch it up too if you want to.
and is a guy that can be an outside presence rushing the passer, but also interior presence and collapse that pocket, help Von Miller out, help Shane Ray out.
That opposite side too.
And teams cannot, teams wouldn't be able to focus on you, focus on Von Miller per se, because you have Bradley Chubb on the other side. You leave him one-on-one, this kid could be special. So what would you think of that, Brian? And how about a duo of him and Von Miller?
I'd love it. I'd love that. That too. I mean, I think that's a hit. Like I said, you have to hit in the draft. There's a number of different roads you can take to do that, but I think it's a good pick. You put Von on one side, you put Bradley Chubb on the other side. That's a nightmare for offensive line.
Yep.
Look at what they're doing in Los Angeles, Chargers, with Joey Bosa and
Melvin Ingram.
Melvin
No one
Ingram.
could stop him last year.
Can't stop
Pretty
him.
much for most of the season.
And that seems to be the formula in Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt.
Absolutely.
In T.J. Watt and
Ryan Shazier, Bud Dupree, the whole crew.
It was James Harrison. Not be the top of my board. Obviously, Quentin Nelson and Saquon Barkley and Josh Allen are higher, but
he's a pick that'd be exciting and help Von Miller.
Instant productivity, for sure.
So Bradley Chubb, definitely a guy to watch out for number 5. And the last guy we're going to talk about that the Broncos could consider at number 5, possibly are considering at number 5. I know this is a favorite of you, Brian. Quarterback Baker Mayfield, senior out of Oklahoma, 6'1", 215. Yes, he is over 6 foot. It has been proven multiple times. 215 pounds, again, like I said. Tough, gritty, competitor. As wants to win as bad as anybody. Hates losing more than he does winning. Most accurate quarterback in this class without question. Heisman winner. Polarizing figure. You're going to hate him or love him. If the Jets pass him at 3, if, the Broncos, the interest they've shown with him in the pro day, sending the most scouts of any team, if, the signs of them bringing him in for a visit, him obviously requesting him to be on the Senior Bowl roster, say all that manifests into realization next Thursday night, and Baker Mayfield is the 5th pick of the Denver Broncos. How does he fit into this team, this locker room, and what would be your feeling on how that affects us going forward?
I mean, I'm the biggest Baker Mayfield advocate. I'm the biggest believer in Baker Mayfield. I think this kid is going to be successful. I think he's going to win a Super Bowl. I can go on and on about Baker. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get him at 5. So that's kind of disappointing for me personally. But if we did, man, it's a game changer instantly. It doesn't make much sense, in my opinion, because I think Baker's one of the two quarterbacks that need to come in and play right away.
Yeah, he's going to push for a starting job.
No
no questions
and
asked.
if Case is our starting quarterback, I don't know how well that's gonna.
Do you want to create that problem?
That's gonna blow over, right? So, I would love it though. I'd love it, especially after 2 years when Case Keenum is no longer on contract. I mean, I think he's a franchise changer.
Yep.
I think he's every tool you need to be successful in the NFL. This kid has.
Yep.
So I'd be all for it.
I agree. Has all the intangibles. I think changes the locker room immediately. Whole team would love him. Coaching staff would love him. Ignite the city. I think he does everything you'd want from the quarterback position. I'm a believer in him as well. I don't think we're getting him though. He's one of the guys in this draft. I have no clue where he's going. I could see him going anywhere from 3 to 20. To be totally honest with you.
And if that's the case, then
maybe
take him at
trading
12.
back. Yeah. So there is a
I'm
scenario
all
of
for it.
trade. He could also be in play there.
That's even
if we
more.
trade
That's
back.
even better value.
But again, there's rumblings the Jets really love him, so
Right.
you go 3. But I think he's a franchise guy. I think he's more Drew Brees and Fran Tarkenton than Johnny Manziel. I've said that multiple times. And most accurate quarterback in the draft. Again, you either love or hate him, and it'll be real interesting to see where he goes.
I don't know how you can go against 40-plus touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Yeah, the guy does it all. And
the projected number 1 pick this year. Through
he had 14 turnovers or something last year.
Through 22 touchdowns and 14 turnovers.
Yeah.
Come on.
Baker Mayfield.
In my opinion.
Again, it goes back to what you're saying. What are you doing after the 2 years with Case? And
Sure.
you might not be thrilled with paying 2 guys $18 million right off the bat that are both going to compete for the starting job, but still, there's a lot to love about this kid, and there might be that temptation there, and you might just have to pull the trigger if Saquon's gone, if Chubb's gone, Quentin Nelson's gone, Josh Allen even, say he goes to the Jets instead of Baker. It's going to be tempting, to say the least, and there's also going to be the option of taking him at 12, like you said, potentially. So those are the guys we think, that we'd like to see the Broncos potentially take at number 5, and we think they might even be targeting. But just to wrap this second episode up of Opinionated, we're just going to do a bold prediction for the draft and just give it real quick. So Brian, give your bold prediction. What do you think's going to happen in the 2018 NFL draft that maybe a lot of people don't see happening?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but...
Yeah, true.
Bold prediction. Sam Darnold falls from number 1 to number 5, and we got our guy.
That would be absolutely insane.
Let's go. Sammy D.
So, there's...
Trademark it.
There's Brian, trademark it. That would be nuts. And that would
Sonny D, Sammy D.
Sammy D to the Mile High City at 5 is Brian's bold prediction. And that would flip the draft, honestly, on its head. Be interesting to see who would win before him to make him fall to 5. My bold prediction is, I guess it's kind of halfway bold, halfway not.
It's pretty bold.
I think the Broncos are going to trade back. I think they will, and I think it will be with the Buffalo Bills or, which I know a lot of people would hate, the New England Patriots. Suck to give them a top 5 pick, but nonetheless, I think we will, and I think the Broncos with one of those 2 picks, because either way, I think with New England has 2 first-round picks, so does Buffalo. We're getting 2 first-round picks if we trade 5 with one of them. I think with one of those 2 picks we're drafting quarterback Lamar Jackson.
Action Jack.
Action Jackson out of Louisville.
Love it.
And I think he'd come in another situation like Josh Allen, maybe opposed to Baker Mayfield, more comfortable. He could sit for 2 years, learn the offense, learn from Case. And I think he'd be electric. That's all I got to say about.
I love it.
That's all I need to say about Lamar Jackson, electric, and would really, I think, again, in a similar way to a lot of these players, ignite the city that needs this. Football team needs this right now. Needs to be ignited, and it's exciting time. So draft's a week away. That's our second episode of Opinionated. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave us a comment below. What's your bold prediction for the 2018 NFL Draft? Who would you like to see the Broncos take with the 5th pick if they stay there? Or what do you want to see the Broncos do if they trade back with the Bills, the Cardinals, the Patriots, whoever they do? Who would you like to see them take if they trade back? We'd love to hear from you guys, and we appreciate the reaction that was positive mostly, and the praise and support for our first episode. We're going to try to make this a consistent thing, and thanks for watching, guys. So,
peace out, Broncos country.
That's it.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Enjoy the draft next week, guys. We'll see you afterwards, and real intrigued to see what John Elway does.